So it occurred to me, a great video, by the way, lots of interesting thoughts to think about there. Um, but it occurred to me, this is a really difficult concept to wrap your head around, is this idea of absence, or the room making nothingness that you're talking about. And I think there are different ways of thinking about nothingness. I think the first natural, intuitive way to think about nothingness is to think about an emptiness. But there can also be what uh, Ortega y Gasset calls compresence, which is a kind of absence which is um, always with the present. Let me give you an example. I just made a video uh, about where I was reading Ortega y Gasset's book Man and People, and this is where he introduces the idea in his lecture, which is made famous by Edmund Husserl, of course, in his phenomenology. But in anything that we're looking at, so take this book, there's a present side, but there's also the back side of the book, which we always just assume uh, without thinking about it. We habitually assume is there. So when I go to grab the book, I can only see one part of the book. There's only this side is present to me. When I go to grab it, I don't go to grab you know um, a superficial shell of a book. Even though I can't see the other side of the book, when I go to grab it, I still grab it as a full voluminous three-dimensional object that has both a front and a back. So he calls the side which is present to us is always accompanied by the back side, which you cannot see, which is he calls compresent. So just because you can't see my head right now, you still assume that um, you know it's that there's this compresent reality, which is this absence, which is how Husserl describes perception, right? So if I take this book and I turn it around, it's just this series of presences and absences, which make up a manifold, which is what an object is, which is the identity of the object, according to Husserl. Partly. Uh, so Ortega y Gasset writes about how in the room in which you are, we look around, and there are lots of things we can look at, and for everything we look at, there's a background. For every figure that we attend to, there's a background which is latent and which we don't see, an absence. There's also the horizon, which is basically the walls of my room right here. It delimits, um, it encloses me. This room encloses me. It sort of it is the end of my perceptual immediate environment right now, but at the same time, it also makes it possible makes my perception possible by closing it off, which is the original meaning of horizon. But so there's the horizon, but there's also something beyond the horizon. I know that there's a kitchen out that way. I know that there is there's another there's a yard and another house out that way, and then out that way there's more. There's the city, and there's the end of the state. Eventually, you would reach the Gulf of Mexico if you kept going out this way. So I have this feeling there is a world all around me. I'm not going to open up my door and find nothingness, right? So this is another way to think about this room making nothingness that you're talking about, I think, as pure compresence. That is to say, the back side, which is just the possibility. You have to reckon with the possibilities of the book. Even though you only see the front, the back side is already reckoned with as the possibility of the unseen absent side. And so thinking of nothingness as this pure compresence, the pure absent side of visual things that we know are there, but yet we can never make fully present to ourselves. That would be one way. So this is the way Ortega puts it. He says, let us look more closely at this schema of this most elementary anatomical structure of the world. As you see, we are beginning to observe a difference in the meanings of environment and of world, which we have so far been using as synonyms. Environment is the part of the world that at every moment comprises my horizon of vision and that therefore is present to me. Of course, as we know from our first observation, present things present only their faces, not their backs, which remain only calm presented, the backs of things, the absences, remain calm presented. We see only their obverse, not their reverse. Environment, then, is the patent or semi-patent or present world around us. But in addition to this, beyond our horizon, in our environment, the world at any particular moment contains a latent immensity made up of pure compresences, an immensity that, in each situation of ours, is a hidden, eclipsed immensity concealed by our environment and enveloping it. So the outside world envelops my room right now, and it is also concealed by my room. Um, and That's one way you could think about this nothingness, is just pure, just the absent part of visual objects, the part you don't see, without the present side, just pure compresences, which is essentially pure possibilities or potentialities. This latent, Levinas says that it's this like rumbling, this just sort of like general rumbling which is going on outside. I don't know if that's a good description, but interesting. The second thing I want to talk about would be another way of thinking about absence or nothingness would be as a constitutive absence. So there's what is constituted by the absence and the constitutive. So this would be any kind of absence or open space, just as I think I already mentioned, or I'm not sure if I did. I made a couple of videos in the Tao Te Ching about how they say that in the house, what makes a house, what makes it useful, is not what's in it, what we notice, what's present, what we perceive, but the imperceptible, the absence, the emptiness. It's the room, the emptiness of the house that makes it a house that we can live in, a livable space. Same thing with clay pots. It's, we see the clay pot, but it's the emptiness that makes it useful. And they give other examples. So that the point is that we notice what is present, but it is the absence which produces effects and results. And when I think about evolution and the universe, think about how there were these structures that came together, and it's not just the things that came together, but the way that the things were organized in relation to each other that created absences, opened up new spaces where novelty could emerge. And we'll see this in the blood cell, the way that the amino acids form allows for this lock and key structure so that hemoglobin can become, I forget how it's put, the biology of it, but basically when these things come together in a certain way, they form certain constraints and also possibilities for new basically life to emerge, with life that has blood and oxygen in that blood as hemoglobin. Also, when new cultures come together, they open up new spaces for dialogue and for interaction that allows new blending of cultures to come about. Whether you're talking about in an embassy, during a war-torn zone, you have like this neutral zone, this neutral space where you can come together and talk and form new relations. You have new businesses, you have parks where people come together and they blend and they share and they open up new possibilities. You have what are called threshold concepts. When you learn one concept, a whole new field of related concepts becomes open. You just have to discover the one threshold concept that opens it up. What else? So there is, so when we look up in the sky, the starry sky at night, this is what Kant said, that there's only two things that amazed him the more that we thought about it, was the starry sky above him and the moral law within him. And that so that beyond the stars is like this whole, it's like it's inviting us, so it's inviting us to try to understand it, and that there's this absence of what we don't know that we add to the known, which gives us this creative urge to discover new things, much like Whitehead describes God. Yeah, so I think that's it. I wanted to talk about this openness that's opened up for new things to come about, and that's sort of like this room making nothingness is how I envision it.